so, and I've had this insatiable desire to continue to learn and share my knowledge with the people. And I think that's why I found myself in the position to become a political person here in Union County, and then we found it fell into this podcast. So it's been a great ride, and hopefully we're going up the roller coaster with this podcast and not going down. So yeah.
And I had one technical difficulty, so YouTube was a
Uh
little
oh.
lagged. So I will introduce myself real quickly one more time. I'm Ram. I am from Chicago, newly to Union County, North Carolina. Moved here about 8 months ago. Again, my background's I'm half black, half Mexican, African American, Mexican American, as American as can be, with indigenous roots beyond that, right? So my focus and passions: cybersecurity, AI, business analytics, business process automation. So I like to talk about those things and relate them to the podcast. And to that point, the radical roots, right? So we gave our background. We named our podcast Radical Roots because, well, we're talking about our roots, our background in this country. And then the other thing is we want to dig deep, right, to get to the root causes, the roots of issues, connect the dots, and help ourselves and people understand how these things are connected, and really try to solve the root of problems and not solve the symptoms. One of the things we took about a week to come up with the name. We were trying to decide between I think Roots of Progress or Radical Roots was the final two. And ultimately we decided not to shy away from the radical, right? So, we're in it, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, radical is relative. A lot of people will say radical in the United States is not that radical at all. And so we'll see where we end up. But I think these times call for a radical response without a doubt.
No question. No question. Well, hey, man, again, it's been a weekend of weekends, and it's been a hell of a year. I'm going to keep saying that. It's only January 26th uh, so far. But, you know, uh, what has been, what have you been up to? Because I know you did some stuff you want to jump into, and let's jump on that.
Yeah. So first off, well, I'm just going to go over a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to be talking about celebrating activism, the role of activism in the digital era, rethinking accountability. You hear a lot of time Democrats don't do anything for me, so we're going to unpack that, see what that means. DEI is under attack. We'll talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about the Equal Employment Opportunity Act, which we didn't get to last time.
Yeah, the big thing.
Yeah. So, this past was Saturday. I went to the Indivisible Charlotte event, which was their eighth anniversary. Celebrating activism, right? And so I discovered this group sometime since I got here. Started canvassing, met these folks. It is a national organization that organizes in local chapters. It's a great organization. They actually have they built out a plan for this era we're going into, and it's called basically the document's called Indivisible: A Practical Guide to Democracy on the Brink. Definitely worth checking out. It talks about heading into Trump 2.0, how to resist, how to organize, and how to organize locally. So you'll hear a little bit about some of those strategies. We'll adopt some of those strategies, talk about that, but it's definitely worth checking out. They had a speaker there, Justin Perry, who is a local social justice activist, but he's also a therapist. So he talked a little bit about, self-help, or, your own health, your mental health, self-care. And, a lot of people were stressing out about this week. So he had some good things to say. And he also talked a lot about white supremacy and how that is really at the root of a lot of the issues we're going through today. So we're going to have him on the show in a few weeks. And I look forward to that.
That'd be awesome. That's awesome, man. Yeah. No, it's always a good event. I've been to I think their sixth and seventh anniversary, so I couldn't make it because I was getting my hair did. I know I look good. I know. Please, no fan mail. But I wanted to go, and I'm glad you're able to attend. And you sent me some really good clips. And I think what he was hitting on is some of the reality that a lot of people aren't really aware of. That I think that he put it in a very concise and consumable way for the audience that was there, right? I know Carolyn was doing a lot of the interviewing, but I think being able to let folks know that this is a sociological construct, that we are not powerless to fight against it, but the first key to that is knowledge. I always tell folks that America is being tested, and it's an open book test, but we got to make sure folks know how to read. So
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I noticed was that there's not a lot of young people there. When I say young, I mean maybe 40 and younger. Definitely
yeah,
under 30.
yeah,
A couple young black gentlemen, probably in their 20s. Didn't A lot of women. Didn't see any young white males, which we talked about last week.
yeah.
So I think that's definitely going to be a critical demographic. So if you're listening, you're that person. I think it's I'd encourage you to get involved. I had a conversation this week. Somebody reached out through our website, and he said, "Hey, I'm inspired. I found out about you guys." He's like, "I'm a hillbilly, mountain hillbilly in North Carolina. I'm a white guy. If you heard me, you think I was MAGA. I guess the way he talks, his accent." And he's like, he's concerned for the country. He's embarrassed, and he wants to start speaking out and figure out how he gets involved. And I think that's great, trying to figure out how to be an ally. There was another gentleman in the audience. He said, how do I, go to and talk to black people and understand like where they're coming from and what they're thinking, and how can I actually be an ally? And you're trying to ask those questions. So I think there's that curiosity is there, and I think that there's some genuineness, and they're ready to hear some of the hard truths, because we can't really battle something if people don't understand what we're battling against, right? If we're just trying
Right.
to battle the symptoms and not the root, then it's going to be insanity. I mean, so we're going to have to dig deep so we can reach higher.
Got to be in this moment, and hopefully people who are coming with an open mind and trying to be more enlightened, they're going to come with an attitude of I don't know everything. And especially folks who are of the more privileged group, the more privileged class, the more privileged caste, I should say, because that is going to be essential to their growth. And that growth, you're going to feel uncomfortable, you're going to feel awkward, you're going to feel guilty, you're going to feel shamed. Um, but just know that is not the intent, and that is not the goal of our collective liberation. In fact, no one's trying to shame you. The thing is, none of us knew this stuff, right? All of us are indoctrinated into white supremacy. When I tell people that, it always shocks them when I say, if I had to unlearn my white, if I haven't arrived by unlearning my white supremacy, Karen, then you haven't arrived by unlearning your white supremacy yet. Especially, you haven't done the work, you haven't done the study, you haven't done the readings, you haven't done the centering different communities, you haven't tried to become curious, you haven't done so. Like there is work to do, and it's more to say than I'm just a Democrat. And I think a lot of people in that room that you're in, dare I say, a lot of the people that are probably just in this country, we feel like we have a racist party, which we know is the Republican Party, and everybody else feels like, well, if I'm not a racist, if I don't, say the N word, I don't burn crosses, and I don't wear pointed white hoods, then I'm clearly not the racist. But again, my point is, we all have to actively unlearn our white supremacy. We have to find out why this system works this way. We have to find out why we say something is ghetto. What is a ghetto? Who created a ghetto? Who put people in the ghetto? Why do ghettos exist? Right? And if we just want to your point, Ron, blame the symptom, blame the people who are affected, then that really shows that our allyship doesn't really exist. And it's really a transactional relationship that is really one way.
Yep. So, what do you think the role of activism is in the digital era? How do you think that we take this energy, and so what I call is an anxious energy right now? I think a lot of people are feeling it, in terms of last Sunday we were talking about the calm before the storm was rolling in.
Yeah.
Last Sunday we were still under the Biden administration, and we knew what was about to happen. Thursday it hit. There was all these executive orders. People are definitely feeling anxious. They're looking to somewhere to turn to. I think that's one reason why we've gotten a lot of followers in this past week. Like I said, we went from 400 to 4,000 plus. I think that's one reason people are looking for something. Two, there's not a lot of black men out there talking politics, at least in this medium. And
I mean,
so,
you can find like your Charlemagne's out there who are just being contrarian. But to your point, a nuanced and educated perspective, trying to uplift and empower people, it's very rare that you'll find this.
yes. So, and I want to take that energy and guide it somewhere. And I think a lot of people are lost and confused in terms of the national. They're looking for who's our national leader. We've talked about it. Whether it's Democrat or somebody who's, not a Republican, non-MAGA. I don't really see that. But I think there's a lot of organizations, especially the local ones, that are mobilizing, they're activating, they're trying to figure it out. But where do you see, kind of things fitting in the digital, and now but we're trying to get this local message. How does this connect, especially after we see canvassing, door knocking is maybe not effective as it used to be?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that one, there is a gap within our knowledge base as a country, right? We're not a knowledgeable group of people in America. 54% of adults read below a sixth grade level. So we have to start there. That is the premise of WASH when I try to explain to people of how we engage with them, because that means that people, they're not trying to, again, they're not curious to find that information because they don't have the literary skills to actually read and comb through books and have that critical thinking to be able to understand more complex issues. So they're finding and leaning on people like a Tucker Carlson, who's the big one during the election, Joe Rogan, these people that honestly don't know anything themselves, but since they have a platform, they have wealth, we equate wealth to intelligence. And then therefore it allows people to be sucked down these red pill rabbit holes. So we have to start from that premise. That's who we're working with, is a large swath of the people that don't know anything even about themselves, right? So, and your question was, is what does activism look like, or just who are the
With
leaders?
the digital activism, like, and
Yeah.
mhm.
But with that, I think there's also time for, I think a lot of our content creators that have actually put information out over the past couple of years. You follow all these folks, Consciously, Lene or Lenise is another good one. Amanda Seals, Jolly Good Ginger. These are people that have actively tried to put information out there. And there's some, maybe we can go down the list. Midas Touch, folks that have moved away from the mainstream corporate media environment to put out more unfiltered, human-based content where people can feel like, okay, I'm not getting ran astray. And these people, they're actually invested in me because they're a person like me. They're not getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to do what they're doing. They're taking time on their Sunday evenings from their children, like me and you, to try to educate the people because we care about the people. And if you don't have a cause that's centered in the people, you have a cause that's centered in nothing. And I think that is where a lot of folks are finding themselves in the modern era, right? They're like, okay, well, who can I lean on to just tell me how it is? Because I do feel uncertain. And I always tell people that anxiety lives in the gray. And what I mean by that is, like, if it's not black or white, if your wife says, Rom, we're going out next week, and that's all she says, you're like, okay, is it going to be formal? Is it going to be more relaxed? And then you're going to have anxiety because you're in the gray, right? And right now, folks are in the gray where they don't understand what's going on. We see a bunch of executive orders. Then we have a bunch of course, liberal folks who have no will to fight back against this, telling us to calm down. The law will protect us. The same law that has a 34-time felon sexual assaulter in the White House who stole classified documents that is bought and paid for by several foreign entities. The law will protect us, with a Supreme Court that is also bought and paid for with the boy toy Clarence Thomas and the Christian nationalist Sam Alito. So we have to understand that the folks that are on the ground doing this stuff are going to give you information that you can use to understand what's happening, so you don't have that fear. So I would say find those content creators, and we could maybe put a few in the show notes, that are actively putting out content to educate you. Khalil Green is a great one. He's a young brother, just graduated from Yale. And I think he was the valedictorian of his class, but he's always putting out historical information that ties in what's happening now to what happened back then, and why that, and how we got through it or how we didn't get through it. And I think that's very important in this moment. So digital activism, and also it looks like the listener, you can do this. You can share stuff. You can talk about stuff. On our Union County Democratic Party Facebook group, there was a guy who just put up. I'm not going to name drop him, but he put up a post talking about racist alert, and he said he went to a restaurant here in Union County, and I guess it was off the beaten path, and it wouldn't be a restaurant probably me or you would ever go to. Kind of give you some context. And I guess while he was there eating, he heard the N-word thrown around. I don't know if it was once or a couple of times, and that was the end of the post. And he's like, "Oh, racism alert!" And of course, a lot of other white Democrats are going to say things like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy. We're going to leave a Yelp review." And I commented, I said, "Thank you for sharing this, but did anybody say anything?" We're in a moment where you have to, say something. I said the way racism, parenthetically fascism, because racism is fascism, the way racism and fascism work is they grow when there's an ineffective opposition that is unwilling or unable to counteract them, right? So we need you to use your privilege, because he's a white man, to use your privilege to destroy that privilege. Because if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? And he responded. He was like, I appreciate that. He said, I appreciate your enthusiasm. First of all, chill out. Secondly, he said, but I'm ashamed that I didn't say anything, and I wish I would have said something. But if this was an area I didn't feel comfortable in, and I was afraid, and yada yada, and I go and look at this guy's Facebook profile, and his back page is like the police. I don't know if he was a police officer, but they're all wearing like the flak jackets, and I thought that was just so ironic that the people that are supposed to be the brave back the blue, he's afraid, but us, we have to live out loud. I can't blend in with MAGA. I have locks. I'm wearing a Free Palestine shirt. I can't blend in with those type of people. One, I'd never go to that type of restaurant. But I think as we talk about activism, that's a moment. Mm-hmm. And I know we didn't touch on this last week, but that bishop, I think her last name is Bud, when she basically called out Trump in the National Cathedral for that ceremonious day where the presidents have to always go through that, and she begged for mercy for the most vulnerable, the queer community, the immigrant community. And then that led to, of course, Republicans responding to saying she needs to be deported. Now, this is a Christian leader that says we need mercy in this country for our most vulnerable, and she's on the deportation list. But why do I bring this up right now? In this context of activism and digital activism and that story of that guy, because it was very important that she did that. Because one thing about courage is it's contagious, right? Courage is contagious. Activism is contagious. Being bold is contagious, and that's why he should have done that. And I followed up one more time. I didn't shame him. I said, yes, I appreciate you saying that, but we got to tighten up. We got to get our weight up in this moment, especially palm-colored folks. Y'all got to get your weight. You can't be more afraid than I am. How are you more afraid than I am? Right. So that's not going to work anymore. Where folks are like, well, okay, you were scared. It's okay to be scared. Hey, I get that you're afraid, but that's what it means to be courageous. And I always say you can't have courage without the presence of fear. And if you're afraid, I understand that. I severely doubt those men would have killed you. If you just said, hey, can you not say the N-word? It's not about if you have black friends or black children, but please don't say that anymore. So I bring up the pastor or the I don't know, she's a bishop, I believe, or something like that.
Bishop, I think so.
Bishop.
Yeah, bishop. Mm-hmm.
Is that is contagious. And we want to spark that contagious energy, just like Bishop Bud. And if we don't do that, and if we're silent, we can't forget silence is violence. So I implore all of us to be courageous and contagious.
Yeah, I think again, a lot of people are doom scrolling, to keeping up with the news. It's great to keep up with the news, but I think it can take a toll on your mental health if we're being honest. And I would say it's almost impossible to keep up with everything. And remain somewhat sane. I know we keep up with a lot, but
Yeah.
you sit there doom scroll all day, and what comes out of it. And I think to your point, like at least try to follow those activists, those people who are arming you with knowledge, those people who are giving you tools. But here, what I want is for us to talk about these things that you just spoke about, again, that deep knowledge that help understand and help connect the dots, but then also figure out, okay, well, what do you do instead, right? So yeah, we can be activists online, and right now I guess this medium is I guess we're activists online.
Okay, no question. No
But
question.
I think there's a strategy around taking it to the local level, right? Because I think we have to start looking at politics from a bottom up approach
Yeah.
instead of a top down, because especially in your areas, because one district, a precinct's priority is not going to be another one, down the road. In Union County, on the west part of Union County, there's money, and the problems aren't, they're not as obvious. Whereas, some of the other parts of the county, the elementary schools aren't up to par. And then you got the west holding up, making, kind of bringing up making everything look good in the county, but we're leaving kids behind, right? So, I think we have to really, really get to the local part and like start talking to our neighbors. And not even your neighbors. I think, and what I keep talking about is like, we just have to step it up a notch, do something you weren't doing before. Like me, I've always kept up with politics. I was the person that was telling my friends, make sure you register to vote. Hey, here's who's running. Here's the recommendations. I never knew what a precinct was until I got here. I wasn't canvassing, knocking on doors till I got
Me
here.
either, man. Me either.
I obviously wasn't podcasting till a month ago. And you don't have to do all this. This is just something that I had felt the itch to do, and I'd done it. But like, I think if you don't know where to start, I would say start by talking to your friends and seeing like, okay, what are they doing? Where's their mind at? Maybe start organizing your community. So a precinct. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what a precinct, what it means to be a precinct captain and a county chair and all of those things?
Yeah. So, a county chair we'll start there, or well, yeah. So a county chair is very similar to what Anderson. If you guys know who Anderson Clayton is, she is the chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party. She has a first vice chair, second vice chair, third vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. And then everything flows from there. So basically, that is the leader of the state, right? And under her, there are districts, which are made up of a amalgamation of counties. Then under those districts, there are counties, and I am a county chair, who became a county chair in April of 2023. My term will be ending in April of 2025. And basically, my job is to organize the precinct to make sure it's ready for all political functions, meetings, voter registration, make sure we have the right people staffed at our polling locations the day of voting and early voting. But I wanted to take it a little bit differently. I knew what was on the piece of paper in the POO, as we call it, the POO, the plan of organization. And that is what people call it, the POO. And we probably need to get a better name for that. But I wanted to take it and shake it up, right? Because I think I told you and Andrew on our initial conversation that anytime a Black person shows up into these spaces, we are automatically disruptors, because these are spaces that were not created for us to begin with. Even the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party existed before we had the right to be full citizens. The Democratic Party existed when we were under Jim Crow. Those were all institutions created without us or our input in mind. So when we show up into a leadership position like this, we're bringing the history of us with us. Hopefully we're not, a sellout and going to do whatever whoever's buying us out to do that, right?
Right.
But I wanted to bring in a fresh set of eyes. I wanted to inject some energy. I wanted to shake up people's comfortability as well. So I made sure we did things where folks were very uncomfortable. We did stuff, centering Black folks, Latino folks, centering the queer community. I made sure that we were trying to be as out as possible at all the events around town, especially early on. And now we're post the election. It's kind of this lull that we're trying to get reset up, and all the Democrats are licking their wounds. But during that time, the first, I say 18 months, yeah, 18 months of my tenure, I was always trying to inject some new flavor because, as you said in that room at the Indivisible Charlotte, our base of people that show up are predominantly white, they're predominantly old, they're predominantly women. So the problem with that is the base of the Democratic Party of North Carolina is 46% black, 60% people of color. So if that's not reflected at our events, in our strategy, and in what we're talking about, then we're actively working against ourselves to build a bigger coalition. So I worked to try to counteract that, Rom, and there was a lot of scrapes that I had on my knees, and it was rough. I got cursed out, but I knew what I stood for. I had principles to care about the least of us, and not to try to placate the feelings or sensibilities of people who are more privileged, and really don't care about our collective solidarity. I want to pull. You have to force me to dislike someone who's more marginalized. Force me to not care, because I'm going to show you why we need to care and why it's in your interest for you to care. And that's kind of how I ran the county for the past 18 months.
Yeah, speaking of contagious, I went to a meeting in November. It's the first time I met you. I didn't actually know the county. First off, I don't even remember when I found out there was like a county chair, and but I think it was like a week before the election or two that I found out that the Union County chair was a black man. He was about my age. He looked about my age, and so I went to
Rom, we're the same age. You always do that. Like, we're the same age.
but anyway, I actually put a year on my age today. I told somebody I was a little bit older than I was. But anyways, I went to the meeting, and it was mostly white people. I think our co-host Andrew, or he'll be our guest co-host in the future. He was there, and I think that was about it. I don't think there was any more brown or black people. There was a couple black women in the crowd, but.
And if you remember, my conversation was very
sensitive. Yeah, it was. Yeah, so as you were talking, I was listening,
making them uncomfortable.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was listening, and I was kind of like chuckling, because it was truth. Like, I've heard it before, and then then people were responding a little bit. They're like, I'm uncomfortable, but I feel like we need to hear this. And it occurred to me, and this is a room full of Democrats, and it occurred to me, like, some of them, this is like the first time they've heard this type of directness presented to them, and it was good. It was good. They understood, or they're trying to understand. But before then, I'm happy to have conversations with, or I was happy to have conversations with white folks, candid conversations, honest conversations, one person, 5 people. But I never imagined like myself getting in a room and just being like, but now I do, and like I said, I was inspired, and like just whatever I need to do to not to just bring that up, but any topic, right? But that might be uncomfortable. But I mean, I'm probably here partially. I know I'm here at least partially due to you. I was inspired. It was contagious. I want to get more involved. Like we talked about doing a podcast that night, and we were doing it like a month later. So
if you can imagine it, you can create it, brother.
Right. So I think that, to your point, like, I think that is absolutely an energy that we can tap into, other groups can tap into, in whatever medium works for them, in whatever way. And like I said, whether your calling is just to talk to your friends and be the one that organizes them, make sure they're registered, or you're the person that's now stepping up to, be precinct captain, or, Union County, or actually stepping up to run, or you're making phone calls, or you're canvassing. There's literally something for everyone.
And then precincts. Precincts are basically a smaller subsidiary of the county. So there's a precinct chair, first, I think there's a first vice chair, second vice chair, and so on and so forth. And they do the same thing, but at an even smaller level, probably just your own neighborhood and community. And you could organize those people. Sorry, I just want to answer your full question.
Yeah, and so the precinct, so that's the super local thing. So I think that there's something for everyone, and it's there's groups that help you figure it out. Mobilize.us that has a lot of things listed, and I'll put the link in the chat. But so one of the things that people always talk about is what do Democrats do for me, right? And at this point, probably not a damn thing. I mean, like, because they can't. They're not empowered, at least nationally.
Right.
So to my point, they can do something for you locally. Hopefully, even if they're not elected, if in elected office. I think at the national level, I'm not saying that they can't do anything. They need to be doing more. But the reality is they don't have the power to make change in legislation. Bring in some places even they can't even bring a bill to the floor. Texas, no longer
Right.
Democrats can't even bring a bill to the floor. They stripped them of their power, which is why local. I think these local elections, these local races are becoming more important. And what I was saying before is like we have to start organizing from the bottom up, right? Because again, this area is different than this area. They're going to have different priorities, and so we always say, "Oh, well, what are Democrats doing for me?" And I've thought about this a lot, right? Because well, yeah, they're trying to get your vote. They're trying to get you to vote. But if they don't know your exist, if you're not showing up to and saying, hey, I'm here. Here's what I want you to pay attention to. Here's an issue that's dear to me. They don't hear it. I'm not saying they should be blind to it, but they don't necessarily hear it. And the more they hear something, the more the precinct hears something, or the more the county hears something, the more representatives and state representatives hear something, then the more likely it is to resonate. And even for me, like I wasn't in these spaces a few months ago. I've been here for 8 months, and I've met a lot of these elected officials, the Democrats, and I have their ear just by being in the space, and I knocked a few doors with them. And, so I think now's a time where we, as in really anyone, but especially Black folks who 92%, 80%, who have shown up for the Democratic Party, can go into these spaces and speak up and make people feel uncomfortable. Like make them uncomfortable if that's what it is. But I think that this is the time where we have to take some accountability, as in the people, to go out and push forward and show up, as opposed to just waiting for somebody to come save us. Because that's not going to happen anymore. So we really can. We have to be radical about it, right? You have to create a movement about it. That's my outlook, anyways.
Yeah, no, I think no, I think you're on. You're on. To I think how the people, I'll say before this election, because I will say there has been a shift, and I got to be honest about that. And I don't want to be Pollyanna-ish, because if we're not on terra firma, then we're not going to be moving the correct way. I think people look at the Democratic Party as the quote unquote progressive party, and I think you've heard me say this before that over the past 40 years, there has been this capitulation to the neoliberal movement, basically the corporatization of America. If you know anything about fascism, that's what the definition of fascism is when corporate is Benito Mussolini, he called fascism corporatism, actually. Is when the corporate or oligarchy becomes a part of the state, and vice versa. It becomes one. But when that started to seep in with Citizens United, I think, and then we get Bill Clinton's mass incarceration bill. You get Barack Obama becoming the deporter in chief, and then you get Joe Biden really having austerity measures with a few absolutely good domestic policy, but nothing that couldn't be undone now by Mango Mussolini. It leaves people with what does this party stand for? And I love the idea of getting the politician's ear, but the voice of the people has, I think it was a Pew Research, they did a study that how the will of the people versus the will of the wealth, in the gap of that is people, the voting base, the majority of people that get to put these people in office versus and their needs and what they want. 80% of the people want universal health care. 80% of the people want blah blah blah. 77% of people want an end to the genocide in Gaza. But what happened was that the corporations per se, what they wanted, that always got met. And those are people who don't vote. And this is a long project of how when Mitch McConnell said corporations are people, and the money became the way it talks. So I always try to caution about this whole idea of all politicians are good that are Democrats, because that is just not the case. And we got to be real about that in this moment, because are they going to just give us lip service? They're going to fight. Are they going to get in the way? And I say it all the time. It's very important to get in the way. It's very important to try to throw sand in the gears. It's very important to say no and speak out loudly and gather people who are the most harmed and marginalized and say, what do you guys need? What do you want me to do? Jumping on TikTok, jumping on Instagram is great, giving us updates. Jeff Jackson did that all before he was Attorney General. But what did that get us? It almost placated people. It's well, he's got it because he's in the office. And it doesn't empower you to do something. It doesn't empower you to create a collective group, and it doesn't allow you to create a mutual aid group in your community. It doesn't allow you to educate yourself because you trust that these politicians will actively do what's right for you. And unfortunately, the Democratic Party has become ineffectual against this. And I mean, dare I say, I'm someone who, I love myself, I love my children, I love you, I love your family, and so on and so forth, and people around us. I don't think they're going to defend us. They're not going to defend us in this moment. We have to defend us. Because that is what and that's also, we got to be real. This is what happens in late stage capitalism. Fascism is always the final stage of late stage capitalism because fascism does not threaten capital, right? Socialism threatens capital. Giving people universal basic incomes threatens capital. It stops all those investments and speculations that the Elon Musk and JD Vance, he was talking on some show today on the Sunday show saying the way we increase wages is to increase investments. And it's like, if you're an idiot, you would believe that. That's trickle down economics. If we just give the wealthy more money, then your wages will go up. It's never happened. So if the Democrats aren't out there saying that and they're tweeting about gas prices and how much it was when under Joe Biden versus where it's going to go, I just don't think they're ready for this fight as a leadership group. And I think we have to be real about that as what we're walking into with this Trump administration on day number 6.
Yeah, I mean, we get about. I know we're trying to target an hour today. So we got about 15 minutes, and I will say from a national standpoint, I think Democrats are fumbling right now because they're not doing anything to capture. I don't feel like anyone's stepping up to the plate to really be in the way and lead the resistance. I think partially my theory is that the DNC chair, they're just waiting for the new chair to kind of. Which is just this is prime time. This is a month wasted. So hopefully we start to see that. It starts to become clearer. But we'll have to see. So I know we're going to kind of switch gears. We're going to talk a little bit about the DEI, what's happening there.
Yeah.
Before I do that, if you're watching, if you're listening, please share to 5 of your friends, subscribe, follow, whatever it is, whatever platform you're on. We definitely want to get our word out there, and we hopefully, people get something out of our podcast and us talking. This episode is a lot about organizing, what we're trying to do and how we can turn anxiety into activism. But we want to talk a little bit about some actual.
Do you want to only because I think this might go maybe another 30 minutes. Do you want to stop the live on Instagram and restart it? That way, folks. Can
when it stops, I will do that. But let's just go ahead and power through. I don't know how much. I think we got about 15, 20 minutes left on that live.
Okay.
So we got DEI. And let me know when you want me to roll that clip. But DEI is under attack.
Yeah, it is. And we're seeing a lot of yellow-bellied corporations capitulating. And it's very important that, we even with DEI, that we say the words, diversity, equity, inclusion. That's what they're against. And diversity, equity, inclusion has been, the new boogeyman. Before that, it was CRT. Then it became woke after DEI. Before that, it was affirmative action. Before that, it was politically correct. I mean, so there's always a thing that they're going to be attacking. And it's and I want to remind people, these measures, affirmative action, DEI, these are all justice measures. These are all measures to analyze what was going on to the most vulnerable and marginalized communities, the underserved communities, intentionally underserved communities, and right those wrongs. A buddy of mine, I think he hit my wife up when she talked about the companies that she planned on boycotting. And he was like, "Oh, well, Wells Fargo needs to be on that list because they were caught discriminating against black people, and they still have a DEI program." My wife was like, "Well, yeah, that's good. That's good. They still have the program. That's the point. If they were caught doing that stuff, the point of it is atonement and to understand, hey, we're not going to go back down that road again." And we
Mm-hmm.
want to make amends to make it better for our employees and our customers. And that only sweetens the bottom line. But what's been happening, and there's a guy named Chris Rufo. I think he just met with the White House with Donald Trump. Chris Rufo back in 2021 said that he was going to attack CRT and he was going to conflate it with, and he's going to basically rebrand it. And I think he said we're going to we decodified it and we're going to recodify it, and we're going to attack it all across the country. Ron DeSantis picked him up. I think it was that college, new college down in Florida. They took the board off. He put him on the board, and he successfully did that. Well, he just met with Donald Trump. He's met with Donald Trump. He's going to take that same strategy and run that for now DEI. But again, these are justice measures to actually right the wrongs of this country. And I try to remind people that just because you go into your office, racism doesn't stop there. The society, the fabric of society doesn't end because your boss is nice to you, or because you have a coworker that's cool, or your manager isn't, calling you the N-word. These are our social feelings that resonate with people that allow them to either uphold that system of white supremacy or deconstruct it. And a lot of the times they're upholding it. And if we're not having any systems of justice, basically accountability, then it's only going to allow that to proliferate all throughout our society. And we can't have that. That's the point of that. So we've just seen Target roll back theirs, and folks are up in arms about that. But yeah, it is a all hands approach to ultimately, and then the final stage, the final stage of all this is to actually conflate DEI with civil rights. That's the point of wokeness. This anti-woke crusade. It's because wokeness was always about civil rights. I always tell folks when they say they're not woke, what they're trying to say is I'm against civil rights for this group, that group, definitely black people. And when we allowed that, because the problem is we even have some progressive white people, liberals, Democrats that also believe that. They also believe that if we just kind of got past all of this DEI conversation, then we can go back to where we were before Donald Trump. But I think they missed the mark that it wasn't good for us back then either. It wasn't good for women back then either. It wasn't good for queer folk back then. It wasn't good for poor people back then either. And that is a larger problem. This is where you get the John Fetterman. This is where you get the gentleman from Massachusetts, I forget his name, who said, "I don't want my kid getting run over by a man or a boy in soccer." And it's like, dude, there's no trans kids in your kid's school. But like, they believe that that's how deep white supremacy goes. And this is why I try to tell folks, white supremacy, racism, sexism, misogyny, and all the isms, ogenies, and phobias do not just solely exist in the Republican Party. Those biases and issues, they also exist in the Democratic Party, and they're on full display every day if you want to open your eyes up. Again, that story I just gave you earlier is another good example of that, where people were like, well, it's not me, but again, it is us. We are the ineffectual party that will not stop fascism. And until we can accept that, then we can't change that. Because if you can't name something, you can't shame something. If you can't shame something, you can't change something. And that's the problem.
Amen. So so Target, what are your thoughts on Target? It seemed like they were with it. They were 10 toes down, and then they weren't. So, which is their corporation at the end of the day. And I told you before, they really didn't do anything until they were met with violence. I think it was the Minnesota Target.
Right? Their headquarters, right, where George Floyd was killed. Their headquarters is in Minnesota, right?
And I think
Minneapolis specifically.
Mm-hmm. It was I think it was vandalized, caught fire, and then next thing you know, Black Lives Matter. That was everyone was putting out something. Black Lives Matter.
Black Square on June 7th, 2020.
Yeah, and then shortly after that, just DEI became popular, mainstream.
Yep.
But now it seems they're dialing it back. I don't know if they're kind of rebranding it or like how much they're significantly changing it. I'm on the fence right now. I'm trying to kind of get a little bit understand that, because I can understand on the
What can you what,
surface,
what
yeah,
can you
but I
understand?
also feel I can understand. Okay, so I can understand on the surface, like like a Trump, you could tell him, "Oh, we got rid of it," and then on the back end, if you're still actually doing those efforts.
Mm-hmm.
However, I
Mm.
also feel like there needs to be somebody. I do think the corporation should stand 10 toes down because it's where we're at now is a slippery slope. You're giving this man an inch, he's going to take a mile, right?
Right.
And to have that expectation of a corporation is probably, I feel like we're fooling ourselves,
Right.
and that's unfortunate because at the end of the day, the bottom line is their priority. The shareholders are their priority, and so. But what I wonder is what is that inflection between where it is more advantageous for them to capitulate to the Trump administration, avoid lawsuits, avoid whatever retribution that may come upon them, versus losing losing customers, being boycotted, and seeing a significant drop. I don't know that, but I feel like that's why I feel like if we're going to actually, boycott a Target or boycott anything, we need to be serious about it as a mass, and not just Black folks, but anyone who's with us, right? Not just anyone
That's
who's part
right.
of, anyone who's non-white male, right? Like that's what DEI basically is to, so is geared at, right? So, like if we're serious about it, let's be serious about it. If we're going to half-ass it, I don't know if it's going to be effective, but we need to. I think Target's actually the one to make an example out of
I
because.
agree. Mm-hmm.
So with that, I put together a list on. I published it on our website, and right now it's an early draft, but
Sure. Sure.
it is all the Black-owned Target partners. I shouldn't say all. I don't know if it's a full list yet. I'm working on it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is so what I'm saying, and you could do this today because I really honestly, if we can shop, if you are privileged in a position of privilege to be able to shop online, spend a little bit more money for shipping,
Right.
I think you should do that because there's not a middleman, a corporation that's taking money from these folks, right? So go to these websites, spend your money directly, get that money straight in their pocket. Like I said, I'm working on this list. I want to validate it completely. I want to make
I
sure
love
it's
that.
complete.
I
But
love
this
that.
is this is this is like if we're going to be serious about it, then
Right.
let's be serious about it and let's give people an easy way for them to access this information so they know how they can do that, right? And
No. Yeah.
so that's where I'm at with it. So
No.
what do you think?
No, yeah, yeah. This is great. First of all, this is really good. Thank you for doing that, Ron, because that's very important. Because I think since Target came out with their news, what was it, Friday, I believe, Friday evening, if I'm not, yeah, I think it was Friday evening, because my wife was at Target when I sent her the screenshot. Said, "Hey, this came out today." She said, "Well, I'm actually at Target right now." I was like, "Oh God," but she's like, "Okay, I heard about it earlier today, but I had to get our daughter some pull-ups." But no, I think, in the discourse that has came from it, I think is very interesting. Um, there's been some Black creators and inventors or owners that have put out statements. There's a girl or a woman who her page is Retail While Black, and she said, "Hey, I understand if you don't want to spend your money at Target. I understand if you don't want to spend your money at corporations, and but it will impact Black businesses. It will impact the bottom line. It's really hard for us to get on shelves and stores and whatnot. And this conversation, I think, opened up why we need to boycott even more. Um, because at the end of the day, when Martin Luther King was alive, and Stokely Carmichael and Malcolm X and whatnot, this was when they would have the phrase that don't shop anywhere where you wouldn't be hired. Don't spend your money at a place that doesn't value your humanity, that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
see you as a person, that doesn't think that you're worth a damn. And we've known this for a while. I do believe, again, over the past 40 years, even our media, our entertainment media echo chamber has allowed us to become, to even worship consumerism even more than we did before. And that became our pastime. Um, but now we're at a moment where we say, okay, we know what's happening under Trump. We're not crazy. That's why there's a 92% and an 80%. Like, we're not crazy. We know what's coming. We know they're attacking us. And again, they want to roll back all justice measures that were meant to correct the wrongs of the past. And if you are a multi-billion dollar organization, and this is why I can't accept this whole idea of like, well, they're afraid of Trump and blah, blah, blah. How are you a multi-billionaire and you're afraid of Trump? But me and Rom, we don't got $1 million. We don't. I mean, you might got $1 million. I don't got $1 million, to put together. But we ain't afraid. That it's gonna fall on deaf ears. That we have to all respect, and this is how it is. And we have to think about the employees that work there. And we can't forget Target is very also anti-union. They're very anti-union. So it makes sense that it allies itself with this right-wing posture that wants to honestly throw away all these protective measures for all protected classes, including poor people, including people that deserve the right to have a living wage. Target lobbies against that too. So it's like the chickens are coming home to roost, and I feel like if we don't create pressure, then it's all for naught. And some of the creators that were saying that our bottom line will be impacted. I'd like to remind them that's going to happen. That's always the side effect of that. Black people will always be impacted negatively by boycotts. The bus boycotts in the 1950s after Rosa Parks. Yeah, like guess what? Black folks lost their jobs, or they lost income, or they lost their status, or their ability to provide for some of the bus boycotts lasted over 100 days. So like folks were out of money. But guess what? Our integrity matters more than these green rectangular pieces of paper with portraits of enslavers on them. And that's what the point of this. And there will always be economic pressure. And it's the old adage, if we burn, you burn. And I do believe that folks are getting to that point, because there's only a certain point that you can really keep oppressing people. You can keep spitting in their eye and say, you're going to come back. You ain't got nowhere else to go. And hopefully most of us, and then not everybody will fall in line. Again, not everybody fell in line with the bus boycotts. Not everybody fell in line with Woolworth counters not sitting out them. As long as we have enough of us, and as long as we're loud about it, as long as we're holding our white friends to account. Hey, Stacey, you just come from Target, that racist company that took away their justice initiatives? You shopping there? I told you I'm not shopping there, Stacey, because they are inherently anti-Black. Because of the way that they're operating. Hold our white friends to account. Hold our other Black friends to account. We're in that moment. And I don't really have too much I don't have much wiggle room on that, because, in the old, I've heard some feedback where folks say, boycotting is a reaction, not a strategy. But in reality, it's like, that's not true historically. And it doesn't even matter, even if it was. Amanda Stills had a great line where she said that for this moment, we got to build the plane while flying it. We got to boycott, but then to your point of that list, then buy directly. Start a GoFundMe to help these owners. Like, we don't have to sit here and be like, well, if it's not Target, then it's bust. That's where they want us at. They want us to think that if we're not dependent on their big box retail stores, they shut down our mom and pop stores. Right across the country, these Walmarts, the Targets too, shut down these mom and pop stores that we would have had a Black owned business. Yeah. Then, that's where we're at.
Well, yeah, and and like with Target, and like the corporations and businesses, they should have a moral responsibility. I bet you, if you looked at their core values, of their company, we have to start asking: are you actually living by it, or is it just just for show, right? Because if you're going to capitulate and everything is truly down to capitalism and truly down to profits and truly down to stakeholders, then you're not a responsible organization, and we should not be trying to shop there. And a company like Target needs to be the leader. Somebody needs to step up and be the leader, because next thing you know, the Trump administration is going to be telling your business that you got to sell to Walmart, and it's gone. And this is right. It's a slippery slope, and no one's taking a stand. And that's unfortunate. Costco, I guess, is taking a stand. I shopped at Costco today. I mean, out of necessity.
I'm about to get a Costco membership.
I didn't mind spending.
We don't have one. I'm about to get one.
Yeah, we switched from Sam's because as soon as we got here, we didn't have a Costco before, so we had Costco. But look, I mean, if we're serious about it, I'm going to get serious, right. And I'm going to have this list, and it's going to get distributed. I'm making connections with other people who've been talking, trying to figure this out, right? And because some people say, well, everything needs to be buy black, buy back, buy back, and yeah, it should be, or whatever. I talk about buying blue, whatever it is, but the reality is we're also talking out of a place of privilege. Like if we told people in food deserts in areas of Chicago, you can't buy black.
Correct.
You can barely even buy produce.
Buy anything.
Right. So, it's like the reality of buy back is hard at this point. So,
but that's why the whole point of the entire episode of what does your activism look like? You don't have to be beholden with your mouth. You can say, yeah, all we got is this Walmart here. And it's one of those shitty Walmarts that isn't a full Walmart. You know what I'm talking about? Like, it's not a full Walmart. It's like, like the drive-through, like, Quickie Mart Walmart. Hey, I got a shop here, but this company's goddamn racist. And I'm letting y'all know it is racist as hell. And I don't like shopping here. They got shitty food here, but damn it, that's what we got to do. You can kick up a stink. As Zora Neale Hurston said, if you're silent about your pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it. So you can make some noise. You can get active with your mouth. You can get active with your feet. You can get active on social media that's still owned by Mark Zuckerberg and cuss out Mark Zuckerberg. You can get on X and say Elon Musk ain't nothing but a Nazi. You can still do those things. No one's saying you can't do those things. So I want us to free our minds. And Black folks, we've always had to work with people that were actively working against us. But we also knew how to subvert those systems. Never forget, during slavery, the number one fear of the plantocracy.
Go ahead. Go. Yeah, I'll let you finish that thought. I'm just gonna get us back on Instagram again.
All right, take a second.
Okay. Hold that thought. Go ahead and plug it while we're still live on YouTube. Go ahead and plug it for me.
Yeah, so if you are on YouTube, make sure you're following us here. Ron's better at this than I am. On Spotify, on all the platforms. Follow us on all of our social medias. On TikTok, we're trying to get this content out. And again, not just give you the headlines. We want to actually give you guys a more nuanced and deeper approach. Hence the name Radical Roots, because we need it in this moment. And you're not alone. We're here with you in this fight, and we got two more topics, or maybe one more topic we want to hit on. It's a big one after the DEI stuff, or it's actually part of the DEI stuff. And there's a clip I want Ron to play once we get it up and running. But we'll give y'all a quick break if y'all are watching or listening.
All right, thank you for that. So let me see if we can go live again. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to work here, so
it's okay.
A little bit of if not, the people can watch on YouTube from the.
Watch us on YouTube. Jump to the YouTube, folks. No, but just real. I mean, I know I probably didn't get to the executive order, but we're kind of time here, and I don't want to keep going because not that I don't want to keep going. I love talking to y'all, but I just want to make sure that we're being respectful of our time. I know we can go over sometimes. But this is the point of the Radical Roots, man. We're talking, and the meaty stuff we want to get to too, that we have is now it's 2 episodes we don't really get to the executive order, because now there's more executive orders. But I have points that I want to make on that may run a little bit long, and I want to talk to you about it. So I know we're at our Sunday episode, but let's make sure could we put this at the top of the episode, the next one.
Yep.
Let's do that. Because I really want to hit on this. I have a point about the 14th Amendment, which they are attacking from all sides. The abortion issue is a part of that. The trans issue is a part of that. But we can't forget what the 14th Amendment was about. And that is my 2 points that I really want to hit on. That might take some time, and I want to get your feedback on that too. So, folks, stay with us. Please make sure you're watching. Please make sure you're sharing. We really care about this work because we care about you, and that is the point of a movement. It's a people-driven movement. We even had Sherilyn Ifill, who was on the short list to become Supreme Court Justice before Ketanji Brown Jackson was picked, saying she's excited about the show, literally. So again, we're moving in the right direction, but sometimes time isn't our friend. So, Rom, I thank you, brother, for tonight, man. And again, I really would love to go longer, but I want to be respectful of people's time too.
Yeah, I would love to go longer too, and yeah, it's our time too. I like talking, and but Instagram has this 1 hour timer. I don't know how to get it. I don't know how to get it. It's a good
reminder. It's a good reminder. Like,
but I do try to steer people to YouTube. This is what ends up on Spotify. It's going to end up on all the podcasts, the streams. We're getting followers on those that I don't even track. So definitely. Follow. Even coming today, I was like trying to get everything ready and get everything. I'm having fun with this, right? But
you're doing great, man. You're doing great.
It's my first time like producing and getting it going, multi streams, and trying
if you're
to
a producer,
organize.
You are looking to help us out with the show, please send an email to Radical Roots. Was it not info at? What was the email?
Info at radicalroots.us.
Info at radicalroots.us.
I shot over at home from the bowling alley with my girls, and nice. We went bowling. I get bored of bowling easily, so they had fun, but they got bored. I knew we weren't going to get through the whole round, but
you had the bumpers up.
It was fun. We had the bumpers up. Yeah,
for you. I needed
it. I needed it. So, and I think my little one, she won. So
nice.
But yeah, and the other thing that happened this week. I think it was Friday. So my girls have been homesick. I think they've been homesick 5 days, and they were homesick. Were home last week for 3 days because of the holiday. Mm-hmm. So we spent a lot of time together. On Friday, we were watching Little Rascals. I don't know if you.
Oh yeah.
If you remember Little Rascals, at least the one from like our childhood, yeah, the new one, not the like old,
not for the
borderline
50s.
racist, not the borderline racist one, but
like, right,
but like
the real buckwheat. Yeah.
Anyway, so we're watching it, and it's on, and I'm talking to my wife in the kitchen, and then well, first off, I looked over and I see two of the little boys, and they're dressed up as girls, like trying to hide, and they're wearing like ballerina outfits. I was like, oh, like you can't do that today. Like imagine the right wing saying that, like lose their house.
The woke rascals.
and then a little while later, I hear a voice. My wife, Donald Trump is in Little Rascals. And he is in Little Rascals. It's only for like a few, like almost like a Home Alone type thing. And I asked my oldest, and I said, you know who that is? And she didn't recognize. I said, that's Donald Trump. She's like,
he's younger, probably.
Yeah. Well, she's like, oh yeah, exactly. She's like, that's Donald Trump, Donald Dump. I let her call him.
Whatever.
She every time she sees the current Donald Trump, she's like, ew, because he's orange and like blonde, and but I think like it's not just the physical appearance. I think she's heard him to be like where you actually when somebody's on the inside is not right, and it makes them unattractive as a person.
It's in her spirit. She gets it. Look. And so, that spirit of discernment.
And she said, she said, it looks like he has a wig on. This is on the movie. It's like he had on a toupee back then too.
Oh,
so,
so
I thought that was
money.
That was funny. But,
I love that. Now my son asked me today. He said, "Dad, what stores? Why are we not allowed to go to stores anymore?" And I was like, "Oh, son, it's not that. It's." But I explained to him why. He said, "Because Mom said we don't go to Target no more." I said, "It starts February 1st. The boycott starts February 1st." So, I said, "Yeah." I was letting him know why. He said, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense." But no, Ram, pleasure, brother. It's always good talking to you, my man. And I don't know, maybe it turns into like a three episode a week show. I mean, folks seem to be clamoring. I don't know, brother.
I like the two. I like the two.
Maybe 7 days a week. It's a daily show.
Yeah, I don't know if people like. I could go 2 hours, 1, 2. I don't know. We'll figure out the format and what people like and what works for you. I like getting things off my chest, and right now I'm in a mode of I'm a strategy mode. I'm a business strategist, and all of a sudden, I'm not gonna call myself a political strategist yet, but I am thinking in terms of strategy, in terms of politics. I'm new to this space. Obviously, people have been doing it. I'm not like a pioneer, but I'm young.
You're doing what's right.
And I'm trying to figure out how we connect to the younger generation. Trying to figure out how we connect with Black and Brown more. So, and hopefully that's what we end up, doing, and we'll find our way. And we'll find our tribe. We're starting to find our tribe.
That's right. That's right. Keep it up. One foot in front of the other, folks. Any CTAs before we get out of here?
No call to actions. I gave it, Jordan. I'm just saying, just follow, like, subscribe, share, and listen to your podcast. And add us to your favorites.
I love it. I love it.
And stay sane, everyone. Give yourself some. Give yourself some peace of mind. Let yourself feel what you feel, and then do something else. Like you can get off.
Go bowling with the bumper set.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Like regardless.
Right.
Talk to your friends in the community. That's what I say.
Human connection is the number one thing. So I'm with you, man.
All right.
Folks, have a good night, y'all, and we'll see y'all on the next one.
Thank you, everyone.